Hello and welcome back to another episode of Discovering Disabilities in Dearborn. My name is Rashad and I am gracefully joined today by Aimee and Christina. It may not look too nice, but it is undergoing some renovations right now in hopes of making it better and just improving the podcast in general. And without further ado, let's get into the nitty gritty. So, Aimee, Christina, tell us more about yourselves.
Well, my name is Aimee Aszabo. I am a 2022 graduate of U of M Dearborn. I'm a Dearborn resident, and I work at Services to Enhance Potential, also known as STEP, here in Dearborn. I came to STEP about 3 years ago now, and my role there is Vocational Services Manager. So in that role, I oversee all competitive integrated job placement for individuals with disabilities. So I lead a team of employment representatives that do that important work. And then in addition to that, I also oversee all the youth programming, all the pre-employment transition services for youth age 14 to 26. So that includes Project Search. So we're really proud of overseeing 3 Project Search sites actually in the area.
Awesome. Christina?
And my name is Christina, and I am also a graduate of U of M. I got my master's in learning disabilities. So from there, I taught special ed in the Trenton School District for 25 years. I actually had a career shift and moved over to the high school, and it was getting individuals ready for the community, individuals with learning disabilities. So I went to a conference, and that's where I met Aimee. And I said, I want to come work for you. And she said, come aboard. So I decided to retire this past June, or last June, I guess now, because it's 2024, and came aboard just 2 weeks later to STEP. And I have just enjoyed every part of this job. It doesn't feel like a job to me. It just, I don't know. I love it. I've loved working with Aimee. I'm the mother of triplets. They are going to be 20. They're in their second year of college, so they've been a trip to watch grow up. I'm a proud mom, and I think that's it. Oh, I'm an employment representative at STEP, so I help folks with special needs find integrative or competitive integrative employment. And that has its challenges, I'm finding out this past week. So nothing we can't conquer. So
That's right. That's a very good mentality to have. And it seems like you guys have done a lot of work with the disabled community and people with disabilities in general. A lot of experience, which is amazing, obviously. You'll have a lot to share, right? So in terms of like your specific roles in STEP, right? Vocational rehab. How does a typical day look like for you?
Well, that's a great question. Every day is a little bit different, and that's actually one of the things I really love about the job. It kind of depends. Our philosophy at STEP is also meeting people where they're at. And so if that means picking somebody up at home and taking them to the job interview, that's what we'll do. If it means we're not quite ready for the interview, we need to practice, we need to work on some soft skills and communication skills, then that's what we'll do. So each day does look a little bit different. In my role particularly, I'm all around town. So I could be in Plymouth Canton in the morning, Dearborn in the afternoon. It just kind of depends on the certain assignment and the individuals that we're serving. So depending on where their interview might be or where our meetings might be, we're kind of all over the community.
Is that like because STEP has multiple locations all around, or?
Yeah, so STEP actually has 4 resource centers in the community. So we have one in Detroit, 2 in Dearborn, and our 4th center is in Westland. We also operate 3 thrift stores in the community, which serve as retail training opportunities for the folks that we serve. So our 3 thrift stores are in Southgate, City of Wayne, and in Dearborn Heights.
Awesome. I just passed by it too right here on my way, right down the street.
Yeah.
It's really cool. Okay. All right. And Christina, Christina, what does a typical day look like for you?
So a day for an employment representative, like myself, there is a lot of teaching with my job. I teach soft skills in my office, and we also teach pre-ets out in the school districts and center-based programs. Sometimes we need to conquer and divide and conquer. And other times I just do the lessons on my own. I also have folks come into my office for job readiness skills. So that's where we practice filling out applications and most common interview questions, all that kind of stuff. And then I help them find a job. So I set them, we job search, and we call those places and follow up and pray for an interview. So also, one of my most favorite things that I love about this job is our Earn and Learn program. Aimee will probably go a little deeper into that. That's coming up this summer, where we have folks that, generally get to experience what it's like to do an internship in real life job, and it just gives them practice, and we see what they need to work on and go from there.
That's awesome. Wow.
Yeah.
You guys are very passionate, and we need
yeah.
a lot of passionate people in this field. So amazing. Props to you both.
Thanks.
Before we move on, so we said STEP stands for Services to Enhance Potential, but we didn't really get into what STEP is exactly, or what's done at STEP in general, like what it's a service for. So you guys want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So actually STEP has been in the community. We celebrated 50 years last year. So it started in 1972. STEP is a nonprofit organization serving primarily Wayne, Macomb, and Washtenaw counties, but although we are branching out into Oakland as well. And with the nonprofit, we offer a variety of services, and really our mission is just to help people achieve their goals. And so for some people that is living independently, for some people that's employment. So achieving greater independence and helping them in the pursuit of those goals that they choose for themselves.
Wow, that's really awesome. When you say employment, what does that consist of exactly? Like, I'm imagining, of course, like, okay, when I go interview for a job, and I get hired and I start working, okay, like that's what comes to mind for employment. But for someone with a disability, is it just the usual employment process? It seems like a lot goes into it, a lot more than if I were to go apply for a job, right? And in addition to that, like, is there any difficulty actually getting those certain companies to hire somebody with a disability?
Yes. So there's a lot of barriers to employment for folks with disabilities, and there's a lot of challenges. One of the number one challenges and barriers for folks is transportation. So we help folks first understand what their barriers are, and then we can help them to work to overcome those barriers. For example, folks who might struggle with communicating, we would help them to practice their interview questions. Again, it's going to depend on the person's individual needs and their interests. And sometimes we still do face discrimination. There's a lot of people who don't know about disabilities, have never worked with someone with disabilities before. We deal with a lot of ableism as well. And so we do a really good job, I feel, of preparing folks for the interview process. Employment can look different for everybody, but we start with supported employment opportunities. And so something like our thrift store is an opportunity for the individuals to try out a job and have a coach with them as much as they need it. And then when they've mastered the skills, our employment team helps them to make that transition into competitive employment in the community.
And this is paid employment?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Everyone is making minimum wage or higher.
Wow. Yeah, they so my sister personally, she works in the STEP thrift store.
And
that's
she loves
right here
it.
down the street, and she does love it, of course.
Okay.
And she's really excited about the fact that she can make money.
Yes, it's
because
important.
it wasn't like that growing up. It was just like school, and then okay, what comes after school? She also went through Project Search, which we'll get into a little bit later. But but it was never like a situation where she'd be able to make money from what she was doing. And now she just thinks it's so cool. She's saving up money to like get her own phone, and basically she's becoming more independent, and she knows that now. Yes. She always brings up like, oh, I'm an adult, I have to act like an adult. I have a lot of responsibilities. Yeah. I'm working, I have a job. Yeah. So it kind of gives them that social aspect of like their lives, being able to go out in the community and work and you know, be independent. Those are all things that we might not think about, especially when people with disabilities are like younger and we're seeing them grow. But like once they get to that point in their lives where they're like, we see them becoming more independent and working more and just, hey, I'm an adult now, you know. It's really beautiful to watch and to see the growth. And you guys contribute a lot to that. Just it's literally your jobs, right? So
Right.
so thank you for that.
Oh yeah. It's a joy and it's
I
a
enjoy it,
privilege.
yeah,
It's a privilege,
for
I
sure.
think. One thing that I'll add to that is, you know, just like anybody, people want to make money and they need to make money. But the other thing about work and employment is having a sense of purpose.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I think for a lot of folks, and I can bring my experience from before I came to STEP, I worked with a different population. I worked with traumatic brain injury survivors. And so it was really beautiful to see them realize that once they gained their strength back and were able to overcome, that they were able to give back to the community. And so for somebody who has been on the receiving end of help for many years or a long time, when they themselves can then be that person to help someone else, it's life-changing.
Right. She another thing that my sister says is like, oh, I wanna give to the less fortunate. You know, now that I have money, I wanna share my money with others. So it's really like, and it's, I mean, yeah, sure, you can say like, oh, that's a characteristic or a personality trait of people with disabilities because they are compassionate, right?
Yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
we've all been around them for so long, and like we know that they're compassionate people who want to help others, but like also knowing that they can now, it's like it's
empowering.
It's very
Yeah.
empowering. So, just one step closer to reform and making things better in general.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
One more thing about STEP. Well, not one more thing, but you know, the next thing about STEP
Yeah.
is like, okay, so we've talked about briefly the challenges, right? Of like allowing somebody with disability to get hired, going through the whole process, setting up a job for them. And you mentioned the internships coming up this summer. I also saw that there are some new partnerships as well.
Yes.
So we'll get into those a little bit later too,
Great.
just when talking about like the future of STEP. But through STEP and through the process itself, have you kind of like been able to see someone or a group of people or multiple people with disabilities actually have like life-changing experiences from STEP and being employed?
Absolutely. Yes. Since I've worked with STEP, I have placed quite a few people in started working for STEP. I've placed quite a few folks in the competitive integrative employment. And one of the barriers for these folks is they're afraid of losing their benefits, their state benefits. And I got my benefits to work coaching certificate through STEP, and it's mind-blowing, the myths out there that these folks believe. And so once I sit down with them and explain, hey, you would be better off working out there in the community, you would be making more money. And once once I do an estimator and show them the graph, you could see their brain just shift. So the folks that I have placed are doing wonderful. They're very happy. One of the people that I placed was called in to work a couple times a week, every week. And he has been at Myers since November and has only missed one day.
Wow.
So he is doing awesome. I've got another person I placed who wishes he knew this a long time ago, and he would have been out of the thrift store and into a real job, making more money. They're saving for cars and, just doing really great. Now, I mean, with that being said, there's still stories of people, struggling, but the success stories definitely are outweighing the struggles, and we just keep working with those folks that are struggling and finding them a job that is, the best fit for them, and they'll have their success story too.
So you said Meyer. That's a big box store.
So yes, it is. He actually, he's in the merchandising department, so he actually organizes the boys and the men's departments. And he took me around and he says, you know, the hangers always have to hang looking like a question mark. He was so cute when he was taking me around. And folding, you know, that was a struggle for a while because we don't do that in our thrift store. We do a lot of hanging. So, you know, we got him to accommodate. We got him a device that helps him fold shirts until he learned how to fold the shirts. And yeah, he's doing great. I mean, he made it through the holiday season.
Oh, yeah.
So if he can make, it was a lot of talking him off the ledge, you know, and I still talk to him now. He always texts me, oh, I'm having this problem. And then by the time we hang up, he's fine. So, I mean, I am so happy he's still there. I'm just so proud of him. I'm so proud of the folks that are still at their jobs. So they're doing really well.
That's beautiful. So you can see the progress of the people you work with.
Absolutely. And, you know, sometimes the first job we find somebody isn't the right fit, and that's okay. You know, we have a lot of families who will worry about what if it doesn't work out? What if I said, I've had more than one job in my life. I'm not born working at STEP, and I'm not going to die working at STEP. You know, I'm going to have multiple jobs in my career and in my life as a person. And so if it doesn't work out, we're going to ask a series of questions about why. And then when we go to make that new job match, we're going to find something that fits better. Right. And so, you know, I think a lot of time, people might think, you know, we're only going to get one shot at this, but that's not the way it is. And like Christina just said, we're following along with somebody after they get the job. We don't just say, okay, adios, you know, have fun, good luck. See you later.
Take it to the wolves.
Right. No, we're going to follow that person along. We're going to check in with the manager, the supervisor, make sure that things are going okay. If responsibilities change, if a promotion is given, and there are new responsibilities, we're there right alongside and checking in and making sure that everything's going smoothly.
If they might need a job coach for a couple of days a week for a couple of weeks, just to make sure that they're, you know, if they've learned
that new role, or
if they've learned a new job at their work and they're nervous. So yeah, we accommodate as we go.
And you mentioned Project Search earlier, so I'm gonna bring it up again. It's a transformational program. It's life-changing for folks.
It really is.
I've seen young men come into the program at the beginning of the year, very shy, very closed off into themselves,
hoodie on their head,
introverted, very.
Yep.
And by the time they're done, it's like you're looking at a different person.
Yeah.
Independence, not only in the professional realm, but also in the personal realm. Making their own appointments, confident about taking public transportation on their own. And so those are things that are just part of growing up.
Right.
Having successful back and forth conversation.
Yeah.
That's been huge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And knowing how to appropriately interact with folks at work, too, which is a different type of relationship than they're used to having at home with family and friends.
Yeah, and usually, like, it doesn't happen often where someone will get, like, a customer who's overly aggressive, but, like, even them being able to deal with those situations, I think, is very important. Yeah. Project Search, we're going to get to that right after this. Just one more question about stuff. Okay, how does the typical transition look like, or progression? Is it thrift store first and then into like a real job, or how does that work?
Not necessarily. Everyone that comes to STEP meets with a social worker who we call supports coordinator. They're going to make a plan, a person-centered plan. And depending on that individual plan of service, they may or may not be interested in employment. If they are, we're going to have a conversation with them and figure out, what skills do you have? Have you worked in the past? Have you had volunteer experiences? Do you have a resume? If they've worked before and they've been successful at a job before, we're pretty sure that they can do that again. Maybe they need maybe they need to brush up their skills or practice a few things. But it's not necessary to start in supported employment. For folks that don't have any experience and would feel more comfortable working, you know, in a supported employment environment or enclave, we're absolutely happy to provide that. But it's not, you know, an obligation.
Okay, and then the job coaches that you mentioned earlier, are they like trained specifically for those jobs? Like, if, for example, if someone were to be hired at Meijer, would the job coach like have experience or be hired through Meijer or through STEP?
No, our skills trainers are hired through STEP. they'd get some initial information about the job site, about the tasks and things like that. They're going to attend those shifts with the individual who is employed at the Meijer or the Target or wherever, and they're going to learn alongside the individual as they're being trained by their natural supports in the workplace. And so, no, you don't have to be an expert. If I had to train everybody how to work at Meijer and Target and every place else, we'd never finish. But they just help to kind of bridge the gaps. So if there's, one of our members from STEP gets a job at Meijer and is struggling with a certain thing like the T-shirt folding, that skills trainer is trained in recognizing what kind of support I should be able to provide, or what kind of things I might be able to suggest to help make that job a little easier, or to provide whatever kind of accommodations that person might need.
And you know what's nice about that? It doesn't seem like it's like a one-way thing where it's just a skills trainer helping out the person with disability. It seems like the person with disability can also teach the skills trainer some things about the job and what they know how to do, and get that like encouragement and reassurance from the skills trainer.
Absolutely. It is reciprocal, because we have a great example of that is our change sheet that we have at the thrift store. A lot of the folks that we serve have trouble making change or handling cash, or are just afraid of it. And so they've introduced this change sheet, and we've heard that other stores have adopted STEP's change sheet because it works for all employees, not just those with disabilities. Yep. And so some of these helpful workarounds, or some of these accommodations that we make for our folks actually work really great for all employees, regardless of disability status.
Yeah. You guys should have copyrighted the change sheet.
Right. Yeah. Right. And can I mention, I can't walk into Meijer without fixing the hangers to look like a question mark.
So it's clearly had an influence on you.
Yes, it did. I thought it was cute.
Okay, so Project Search, finally. Mm-hmm. We'll get into that now. So what is Project Search? How does one enroll in Project Search? And I guess, where does it begin? Because I've read that it's like a senior year of high school type of thing, but who's eligible?
So that's a great question. Project Search, I think, has been around maybe going on about 25 years now.
Yeah.
Started at Cincinnati Children's Hospital in Ohio. It started with a nurse, and Susie was a special education teacher. Yep. So these two women noticed a need for disability representation at the hospital. It started with a young lady with Down syndrome. They assigned her to working in central sterile processing, and with a really important job, right? Because those are surgical instruments, and if they're not clean, that's a problem. Right. And so happy to report, all these years later, she's still there.
Awesome.
Yeah. So Project
success story.
Yeah, huge success story. Project Search is now in 11 countries. Yep. 47 states. Somebody asked me which ones aren't part of Project Search, and I don't know the answer to that. But 47 states. Project Search is an opportunity for folks to forego their last year of high school. So they opt out of their last year of post-secondary education, and they opt into Project Search, which is a career training program. And so it's really a partnership between a host business. In this area, it's the Corewell Health System of Hospitals, Michigan Rehabilitation Services, Bureau of Services for Blind Persons, and then also a service organization like STEP, or, in other areas might be something like Jewish Vocational Services or New Horizons or something like that. But it's a partnership. I refer to Project Search as a team sport. It really takes the effort of all of those organizations working together. So a student applies. There's an application process. They go through what's called Skills Assessment Day, where they're given there's a couple different stations and things set up where they try their hand at putting on gloves or wiping down a gurney. The tasks
looking at expiration dates.
Looking at expiration dates, all the tasks that would be associated with the internships that they could do there in the hospital. And so with our host business, Corewell Health, they would do 3 internship rotations during the course of the academic year, 10 weeks each. So maybe you're first in environmental services, so you get to learn all the skills about keeping the hospital clean and all the protocols. Then maybe you'll do your second rotation in food and nutrition, where you learn how to portion food and handle food safely. And then perhaps for your third rotation, you might be in patient transport, where you're actually taking patients from their room down to get an x-ray or to get a blood draw or something like that. And so the whole purpose of Project Search is that upon graduation, these folks are job ready. And so when they graduate in June, it's Christina and I and our other employment reps' job to help these folks gain employment.
And they will.
So high success rate.
The success rate is in Michigan last year.
85%.
85%.
Wow, that's amazing. That's
which is astounding for the disability
Yeah.
population.
Oh yeah. So one of the things that came to my mind when you're talking about like opting out of the last year of high school, does that sit well, quote unquote, sit well, or how comfortable are parents with that? Like, how do you explain that to a parent? Like, oh, you have to opt your or a caregiver, you know, you have to opt like your child or I don't know the term, but loved one. I was gonna say something about guardianship, but like, you know,
even without guardianship, right? Your loved one, your
right,
your person,
right? Yeah. How do you opt them out, or like how does it sit with the parents or caregivers, and how do you like explain that to them?
So we have to explain to parents and other support people. We want to make it clear from the beginning that the goal of this program is employment. So if you're not sure that you want your son or daughter or loved one to be employed at the end of this program, this probably isn't for you. In terms of the opting out, you know, in the state of Michigan, people with special needs and with an IEP can be in the school until the age of 26, which is quite a lot longer than a lot of other states. Most states are 18 or 21 even. And so it can be kind of scary. I think the schools give a lot of times give respite to parents. It's a place where they know that their son or daughter is in a safe environment and protected. And it can be very scary for them to sort of let go of that and opt into sort of the unknown. And so we just have that conversation about, again, this is a program where the services are really supported from a number of different organizations.
To piggyback on that, though, parents in the beginning are very nervous and very skeptical about, you know, making that move. And then they realize what a great opportunity it is. And it takes some time, but now when we have our employment training presentations where our folks do presentations about what they're doing in their rotation and what they want to do in the future, I mean, there's happy tears in all these meetings. Even the translator is crying because these parents are seeing how much their kids have grown, and it just turns into a no-brainer for them. They do it all over again. So that's really cool to see.
I think too with the challenge sometimes can be that your child or your adult child at home is one person, right? In the community, a lot of times parents don't know their child that way. They haven't seen them on the job. They don't really know even what they're capable of.
Yeah.
And so when we have those student employment meetings and we're talking about, and the teacher, the instructor will show even some photos of them on the job in the dish room at the hospital, parents are blown away. They're like, what do you mean? They don't do any dishes at home?
Yep.
So, and then you see the student like get a little giggly, like, oh, now I'm going to have to do them at home too.
You know how many IEPs I've had and parents are like, are you talking about my kid? You know, they feel my head. Are you feeling okay? Can you look at the progress report again?
Are we talking about the same person?
So yes, they are so different in that atmosphere than they are at home. They've got unconditional love at home, you know. They're gonna be chill, you know, be teens.
Right.
So they definitely step up.
Yeah, for sure. For again, like sticking with Project Search, so how, like, what about the schools? Like, are all schools like or not eligible, but like, are all schools like partnered with Project Search, or does Project Search, like, is it independent of schools, or?
That's a great question. So each different school district will have an agreement with Project Search, and so if a school district is interested in participating in Project Search, there would be that conversation with the Project Search organization. And again, that would be a partnership, which is most of the time partially funded by Michigan Rehabilitation Services and Bureau of Services for Blind Persons. So it's really a collaborative effort. But to answer your question, not all school districts opt in to Project Search. We do have a partnership with Dearborn Public Schools. Wayne Westland Public Schools just came on this year. They had a program prior to COVID, but with the programs happening in the hospital, a lot of those kind of fizzled a little bit during the height of the pandemic. But Wayne Westland is back on board. Dearborn is going, and then
Lincoln
Park Public Schools has the Trenton Hospital right now.
Yes.
So a lot of options.
A lot of options.
Okay. And it's only up from here.
Yeah.
Right.
Growing
right.
all the time.
Right.
Yep.
And because Lincoln Park is partnership, they partneringship.
Partnering with.
That word. It doesn't mean that just kids from Lincoln Park can go. I mean, if they've maxed out and we're still looking for more folks, kids from other school districts that are referred to the program can participate, right?
It's a case by case because the districts make those the school districts make those decisions
Right.
themselves.
Right.
So I know in the past, like if there weren't enough students from Dearborn Public Schools that were interested and had applied, we would open it up to District 7, which is like the Crestwood Dearborn Heights area district. And so, casting a wider net and then seeing from that district who might apply and who might be interested. And usually the programs, we want to be right around 8, the sweet spot is 8 to 10 students per year.
Yeah.
And so if the district doesn't hit that number, pulling from its own candidate pool, they might open it up to other surrounding districts.
Right.
So it's accommodating.
Yes, absolutely.
That's why, educational efforts and outreaches and things like this podcast are important, right? We need people to know more, to be able to be more accommodating, how they can, the ways in which they can be more accommodating.
Yeah.
So again, thank you for coming on and sharing your stories.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. The next thing I want to ask is, so obviously you've been working with people with disabilities for many years.
Mm-hmm.
Can you take me kind of through the progression or the evolution of how things were 20 years ago versus how they are now?
Well, I wasn't working in this field 20 years ago, but I will say that there was a definite shift in inclusion and making things more, there's been a shift in making things more community-based, less institutionalization. I think just even in the treatment of individuals, the way that they're included in their own decision-making, giving them a voice in their own care, that has really increased, and I'm really glad because people should be able to make their own decisions about what they want to do with their lives. And so I would say that's primarily...
Yeah, years ago, it was all about just having the IEP on the child, and now we try and have student-led meetings because it's about them. So
it's a huge part of what we teach, too, is self-advocacy.
Yeah.
So, Aimee, you weren't in this field 20 years ago. I did a little bit of reading beforehand. It seems like you were interested in photography and cinema.
Yeah.
So where did the transition happen to the point where you started working with people with disabilities, and how?
Well, I studied fine art in my undergrad. I didn't want to starve as an artist, so I chose a different career pathway, which was teaching. I taught abroad for 8 years. When I returned, my teaching English, I didn't have a certificate for teaching English. I was mother tongue abroad, but when I came back here, that was kind of oversaturated, and so I kind of had to find a new direction for myself. I came back to my alma mater, Wayne State. I found a joy in serving with AmeriCorps for 2 years. So in my AmeriCorps program, I really came to public service. And then I realized, well, I put this dream of going to grad school on the shelf for quite a while. So after a 13-year hiatus, I went back to grad school and got my degree in public administration and policy.
Congratulations.
And thank you. Thank you very much. And that's kind of how I came to serving others. Started with the traumatic brain injury survivors and in vocational rehabilitation. And then that just progressed. I found the opportunity at STEP, and here I am today.
Well, we're lucky to have you.
Yeah,
Yes,
thanks.
I've only known her a year, and I'm so proud of her and all of her accomplishments and everything she does. She's a go-getter, and she's super supportive.
Oh,
and
thanks.
Yeah, you're an awesome chick,
Aw,
for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Definitely. Would you say that you picked up, or instead of that, actually, when you were teaching abroad,
Mm-hmm.
were there any students with disabilities there, and like how does it differ from there to here if there were any students with disabilities?
That's a great question. I personally didn't have, I wasn't serving anybody with disabilities in Italy while I was there, but I think they're a little bit behind us here in the U.S. in terms of the integration part. It still does seem very segregated there. There's just not the integration into the classrooms. I think folks with disabilities tend to be put into special schools, special programs, things like that, and not really integrated into the community at all, which is unfortunate.
Right. Do you ever plan on like going back and having like educational sessions, or just like allowing the community there to learn more about disabilities to be better?
I've actually been thinking a lot about that lately, because my dream would be splitting my time between here and Italy. And I've actually thought about how I could do that, and that actually has come across my mind. Also because Project Search has a new site in Italy, so
Yep, they do.
I might have to go visit. But yeah, I think that would be an awesome opportunity to be able to go back and, you know, share with them some of the tools and resources that we use here, and just even model, you know, some of the types of programs, because at STEP, you know, we've been talking mostly about employment, but STEP offers a lot of services. We've got a progressive art studio. We've got a culinary arts program called What's Cooking. And so depending on the interests of the individual who comes through the door at STEP, each day can be different for them. We don't just do employment services. It's skill building in all regards.
What about like recreational activities or something where people can like go out into the community and just have fun?
We do Zumba.
Yeah,
Zumba.
We do Zumba.
Wow.
Yeah, we have an instructor come in and do Zumba, but also STEP has a program called Dream, and it's about the community integration piece. So folks going out on outings, whether that's
movie,
the aquarium.
Yeah,
we have the festival here in Dearborn. They all go together and
they have a blast.
They do. Or they'll go to Comic-Con, all different kinds of stuff.
They did.
Randy
does
a really good job of planning the calendar and taking folks to all different kinds of stuff.
He does.
Comic-Con, like, was it in Texas?
No, the local,
Novi, I think.
Oh, okay.
When they come to
One
like the
Novi.
suburban show place.
Last month or 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Still sounds fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They have a blast.
All right, that's awesome. I keep saying awesome, but it's just awesome. It's just so cool.
It is.
We do so many cool things.
I mean, that's what we're here for, right?
Right.
And seeing it come to fruition and seeing all this happen and all this progression is amazing.
So we're having I'm part of the Dearborn Chamber.
Going back to STEP, future, looking forward. We mentioned internships. We mentioned partnerships. We want to discuss a little bit more about that and how these new exciting developments are expected or will be for all of the wonderful people who will be able to engage in them.
Well, we've got some really great partnerships. Christina is really stellar. Since she's joined the team, she's been so good at bringing people on, bringing people aboard, telling them about what we do. One of the newest partnerships that we have is with LaFontaine Automotive Group. Huge automotive group here in the area. Not only are they hiring our folks, they're also participating in our summer Earn and Learn program, and I'll let Christina talk a little bit more about that. But we're really happy to have partnerships like that. It's kind of hard to get your foot in the door at these big box, so to say, places, the corporate type of places. Sometimes it's easier for us to find folks jobs and to have folks hear us out when it's what I call mom and pop owned, place.
Yeah.
And so I'll let Christina talk about some of these smaller family-owned businesses that she's been so great at organizing, and tell them a little bit about our Earn and Learn program too this summer.
Okay. So it does get a little hairy when you get into the corporations. However, there are a few places that support. The mom and pops are much easier. They're smaller. There's not as many people around. It's not as stimulating for our folks.
You can get it. You're talking to an answer person, somebody who can give you a yes or no. With corporate chain, it's harder, right?
Yeah, it's much harder. I prefer to put them in a mom pop or a personally owned business for just for those reasons. So I started out with I don't know, maybe maybe 8 places last summer. And then this summer, I think we're up to 20. One of our newest ones is Menchie's. Super excited about that. Love me some Menchie's. So I'll be happy to visit whatever intern is placed there. But what we did is we compiled a list of people that are partnering with us, and the adults, kids, whatnot, can pick what place that they want to work or get experience at. It's not all food. Food's not for everybody. And so, I don't know, we have quite a few signed up for this summer. But it's a 6-week internship program, and they get paid minimum wage. And they, depending on the hours that the business might need them and the hours that they're available, they find, the sweet hours, I guess you could call it, the most available that's convenient for them and the business. And they come in and they learn how to do whatever job it is that they're being taught. And I pop in depending on how well the intern is or how much they might be struggling. I pop in 2 to 3 times a week. If it's someone that's pretty independent, I'll pop in on them once a week, and I talk to the boss, ask how they're doing, so that I can find out what things that they need to work on once they're done with this internship. And that will depend what path they take, whether they're going to be job ready and ready to go out and find a job paying minimum wage or more, or they might take that path where they need more soft skills, more work on soft skills, communication, how to handle, conflict in the work area, workplace. I don't know what, I'll write that all in the report and then go from there. So I think it's a great program.
Yeah, work-based learning experiences, that's how we refer to them. Work-based learning experiences are a great opportunity for someone who's never had a job to try out a job. And so, for 6 weeks during the summer, most of us have had a summer job as a teenager, and you know what kind of experience you get, right? It's working with others, it's working with customers, it's learning what it's like to have your own money for the first time. And so these work-based learning experiences, whether they're serving ice cream or whether they're helping somebody landscaping, working at a flower shop, working at a vet clinic, they can experience that,
right.
And come back to their peers and have conversations about, well, I learned this, or what are you experiencing at your job? Because there are going to be those opportunities or those experiences where maybe it didn't go so great, or what are you experiencing at your job, and how did you handle it? And having that opportunity to interact with your peers and see how they're handling things is also a really great learning experience.
And it's okay if things didn't go very well, right?
Sure.
Because regardless, like you said, it's a learning experience. So they're getting a lot out of it anyway, right?
Yes.
Okay. I feel like this would be like a common concern of a lot of listeners and just people in general, which is a very valid concern, right? You have somebody going into a new job, new environment they don't know much about, or maybe they've had a job before. But the point is, they're going somewhere new to them, right? Mm-hmm. How does the concern of safety play a role here? Like how if I, for example, want to put my sister in one of these programs or one of these job sites, how do I know she's going to be safe during that time?
Well, that's a great question. And that's why we provide that amount of support. So the businesses that we work with obviously are vetted. We're not just signing up with whoever wants to, be part of our programs. We're going to meet with those business owners. We're going to have conversations with them ahead of time. We're going to take the individual to meet the owner or the boss or whoever it is ahead of time. Have them practice an interview. Even if we kind of know that that's going to be their placement, we still want to give them that experience of having the interview. Mm-hmm. And so, like Christina said, we're providing as much support as is needed, but we're also giving some freedom and flexibility. Mm-hmm. So, we don't want to be there over someone's shoulder if they don't need that amount of support. We're going to provide as much support as they say they need or feel they need, or or we observe that they might need. And so we're in constant communication with the managers and the supervisors, that what we call natural supports in the workplace. And so if there are any concerns about maybe somebody having emotional troubles or having a bad day, we're there and can step in really quickly.
Yeah. I think sometimes too we look at what their abilities are, and we could decide if a place that they picked might not be a good fit, and just have that conversation and make sure that they're placed somewhere where we think they'll be successful.
Right, because when it comes to work, sometimes there are tools involved, right? There could be power tools, there could be knives, there could be things like that. And so if we feel that somebody might not be able to handle those items safely, that's not a job match that we would make.
Right.
And that's the beauty of working closely with people, is like you can learn a lot about them and pick up on what they like, what they don't like, what they'll feel comfortable working with, what they won't feel comfortable working with. So
I don't subscribe to the plug and play method where I have, I've got 12 young people I need to have work this summer, so I'm going to find a business and we're all going to go over there together, and 12 of us. I'm not doing that. I want to find a meaningful experience, not only for the individual, but also for the owner, the business owner, because we've got to think from the perspective of the business owner. We want them to participate with us. We want them to see the value and the beauty of hiring folks who are different and valuing those differences.
Yep, bigger picture for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think for now we'll take a break. Back. So let's talk a little bit about the misconceptions that people may have in regards to people with disabilities working or being in job environments. What are some misconceptions you've heard or seen, and how have you battled those or fought against those?
Oh, that's a great question. I think from the perspective of the general population, I think sometimes there might be people who think that people with disabilities shouldn't have to work. And it's not a matter of have to. Any of the people that come to us at STEP, these are people who want to work.
Want to find purpose.
Yeah, want to find purpose and maybe want to earn money. Everybody's got a different reason for why they want a job. So we're not making anybody do anything. We're helping folks, achieve their own goals. So that's one thing I think there might be a misconception about, people not being able to do certain things, making assumptions that because of a certain disability, people aren't able to do things. And that's a situation where we all have to look inside and check our own personal bias. I think another common misconception from an employer standpoint, is just employers a lot of times don't have experience, and so it comes from a place of, for lack of a better word, ignorance. Not ever having had experience working with somebody on the autism spectrum, not ever having worked with somebody who may be blind. And so depending on someone's own personal experience, they might have misconceptions about what a person is or isn't capable of doing. And so we are able to provide education. We are, I've had an employer notice that somebody on the autism spectrum was flapping their arms. And because of the stature of this person, they perceived him as being dangerous. And so it's just a conversation of saying, well, once you get to know him, you'll know that he does that when he's excited. And it's just a matter of educating people. Whether or not people want to be educated and whether or not they want to receive that information can be different. And so that could be a challenge. But I think in terms of being able to provide that education, I think that we do a really good job of that.
Yeah, it's important to have the information out there. Whether people want to take it in or not, it's up to them at the end of the day. But just making sure it's available.
Absolutely.
That's the biggest takeaway from this, right? Like, obviously we want people to seek out that information and take as much as they can from it, but we have to make it available for that to happen, right? So,
absolutely.
So thank you for everything that you guys do and all the information that you put out there for others to take in, hopefully. Another thing about like jobs and people working, what does a typical shift look like? Like, can they work for as long as they want? Is it full-time, part-time? How does that work?
Go ahead, Christina.
Okay. So we typically have them work a maximum of 20 hours a week. So it's anywhere from 10 to 20 hours a week. Depends on the person's stamina. The first week they start, if they can take on the 20 hours, then all the power to them. Some can't make it for 20 hours, so we just kind of adjust the schedule and accommodate them until they can build a little more stamina.
There are people who want to work full-time.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times this population wants to keep the threshold sort of low or part-time because, again, they do receive some benefits maybe from the state. And so, the more they earn, sometimes those benefits can be impacted. And so I think a lot of families want to be able to balance those things so that they do have some of those benefits still available to them, but also having that income.
Okay. I was thinking from the corner of the Earn and Learn and the thrift store training center.
Yeah, so for younger people, the part-time is usually, and specifically our summer program, we cap that at 20 hours a week.
Yeah.
Young people, there's family vacations during summertime and things like that, so we have to keep all of those things in mind. But from an employment perspective, generally, again, it's going to be based on the individual's needs. If this is somebody who is a young father and needs to provide for his family and wants to work full time, then that's what we're going to help. That's what we're going to help them achieve.
Mm-hmm.
And do you have anybody like within your department or within STEP who can kind of help manage the income to a point where, like, because a lot of people don't like, they don't want to lose those government benefits, right? They get those government benefits and they don't want to lose them. So do you have anybody on the inside who knows that threshold and can make sure that nobody goes over?
Yeah,
Yes.
Christina just got trained. She's a certified benefits to work coach.
Right. Yes. So it's pretty cool. It's a lot. It will take me a while to be a master at it. I still have to consult with my advisor before I sit with my intern because I want to make sure that I'm giving all the proper information. But like I said, there's so many myths out there, and once they sit with me, it's very eye-opening for them. Yes, their state benefits do decrease as they make more money, but they'll never be making less money. And that's something that I really try and drive home. It even says in the estimator, you'll be better off, and it gives you what you would make, what you're making today, what you'll make in 6 months, and what you would be making in 2 years. So it's definitely been a benefit, no pun intended, to have this certification and be able to talk to our folks about what that might look like for them.
Well, congratulations on earning that certification.
Thank you. It was a lot of work.
It sounds like it. I mean, for a job of that magnitude and making sure like people don't lose government benefits, it's a lot.
That's the number one. I wouldn't say a number one, but it's a huge barrier because when families are considering, whether or not it's the right choice for their loved one, that can if they don't have the correct information, it can be a hard decision.
Yeah,
and a lot of fear behind it.
Yep.
Speaking of correct information, so people can come to you guys and talk to you. Is there a website or any resources online or maybe resources that you offer like physically via paper or anything like that where people can like kind of read more about where to go, who to ask for help?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can visit our website, stepcentral.org. There'll be a lot of helpful information there regarding how to get connected to STEP, and also a lot of the events and things that we have going on during the year. One of those is our annual Steps to Success fundraiser. That's usually in October. It's a really fun event, and part of the event is a fashion show, all with fashions from our thrift stores. And so if you've got an opportunity to attend that, you should. It's a really, really fun time.
It's very entertaining.
Very fun evening.
Very fun.
All the models are folks from STEP.
Yep.
And so that's a really good time. I think if you have a loved one and you'd like to see about what services they might want to participate in at STEP, you can call our customer service number, which is on our website. I don't have it memorized, sorry. But then if you're not connected already with Detroit Wayne Integrated Health Network, which is the community mental health provider, that would be a really great place to start, especially for folks who are receiving Medicaid and Medicare benefits. So that's kind of the first place to start. And then once you get a case open with the local community mental health provider, you can request that STEP be your vendor of services. And then you can get connected to a support coordinator who could do that individual plan of service for you.
You can follow us on Facebook.
Yep.
Of
and
course.
Instagram.
Yep.
What are your handles?
Step Central.
Step Central.
Yep.
Simple as that.
Step Central.
Services to
Facebook,
enhance
Instagram.
potential.
Yes.
It's funny because we have really great brand recognition, and the fact, like, we have vans. You've probably seen our Step vans all over town. So people are like, "Oh yeah, Step. I know about Step." And then I say, "Oh yeah, well, what do we do?" I don't have any idea. So our brand is out there, but people just kind of maybe don't know what we do. So I'm happy to spread the word and educate folks about all the great things and all the great programs we have.
They definitely know what you do now.
Yep.
Okay, so again, one more thing. Going back to the enrollment process. So it seems pretty straightforward. Seems like there are a couple steps people can methodically go through. Would you say it's difficult though, like having to actually like getting the inside scoop basically from
Sure.
you both working? Is it difficult going through that process? How long does it take? And just like those logistical details.
Well, that's a great question. So, like many other service provider organizations, we know that there's a really great need. And part of that is also having really great staff. And so organizations like ours, organizations at the state level, like Michigan Rehabilitation Services, are in great need of staff right now. I will say that I'm really proud that STEP has a really great staff, but we're always hiring. So one of the challenges sometimes, whether it's STEP or another agency, can sometimes be that there's a little bit of a wait, right? I will say that you'll probably speed up your process if you start with Detroit Wayne Integrated Health Network first. So you can go to their website, which is DWIHG.org. Thank you. Detroit Wayne Integrated Health Network. Go to their website, start there. If you go to their homepage, there's a banner with a customer service number. You can kind of start there. So there might be a little bit of a delay in getting those services, but what I will say and what I will encourage people to do is squeaky wheel gets the grease. If don't give up. Keep trying. Keep calling. Somebody's going to answer your call. Keep persisting. That's the way to get things done.
And if there's like a language or communication barrier, is there somebody to interpret or help translate?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So you mentioned the need for staff. How can people apply for jobs? And if they don't necessarily want a job, how can people volunteer if that's even an option?
Visit our website, stepcentral.org. There's a button for both careers and volunteering. We've got options for both. I will say that we're hiring almost constantly for those skills trainer positions. So if you want to be that person that it's a direct support to folks with disabilities, it's a really rewarding job, pays really well. We've got part-time, limited part-time, and full-time opportunities.
Okay, that's awesome. All right. I think that'll be the last time I say awesome. Unless you have anything else to add. In which case we can move on to our dream segment, if you don't have
Well, we're just glad. We're glad to participate. You guys do important work bringing this information and sharing it with the public, especially in this community. I think, again, this is something that's bigger than just one organization. And so the more that we can collaborate and the more that we can work together, I think the greater and bigger things we can do.
Right. I absolutely agree with that. And also, we have to give you and STEP and other programs, Detroit Integrated, we have to give them their flowers too, because without them, none of this would be possible, right? Laying
Absolutely.
the foundation for us to even start this,
Right.
to think to start this in the first place, making it known that there's actually a need for these types of programs is very important. So thank you both, and thank you to STEP, and thank you to Detroit Integrated and all the wonderful organizations and programs and people who work with people with disabilities and try to help spread the word of how important it is to really understand what disabilities are and how to accommodate for them. Okay, so I guess we'll move on to the dream segment now. Basically, the dream segment is, we end off every podcast with the dream segment. It's a simple question. What is your dream? Simple to ask, at least. May not be simple to answer. It does not have to be related to disabilities, but it can be. But Aimee, Christina, what is your dream?
My dream is to live on a lake and have all kinds of water toys so that my children come back to visit.
Oh gosh, my dream is being able to split my time between Dearborn, Detroit, and Italy, and in doing so, whatever pathway my career takes in the future, my dream is that I will always be able to help others.
Both very wonderful dreams. Hopefully they come to fruition. It definitely looks like it's headed that route. So keep up the great work. Thank you very much for joining us on this podcast. Step Central, Facebook, Instagram. Don't forget.
Yep.
Wonderful guests today. Aimee, Christina did a wonderful job. Reach out to Step Central. Can they also reach out to you personally on Instagram or any social media if they have any questions or?
Well, I'll give you, if it's okay, I'll give you my email address. And
Sure.
if you want to direct any emails to me, I'll be able to help you answer your question. If I can't, I'll get you to somebody who can answer your question. My email address is aszabo, so it's ASZABO @stepcentral.org.
Okay, perfect. And we'll have it in the description as well. Thank you again for
Thanks
joining
for
us
having
today.
me.
Thanks for having us. This
Thank-
was fun.
It was fun having you, and we'd love to have you again as well.
Oh,
Thanks.
Great. Thanks.
And thank you to all our wonderful viewers watching at home. Please be sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook at Dream Dearborn, and also on TikTok at Dream Dearborn, newly created. And then also check out our website, dreamdearborn.org. A lot of wonderful resources on there. You can read more about Dream, our organization, what we're about. Thank you, and we'll see you on the next episode.